Let's talk data types. But first, if this is the first video that you are seeing, this is actually the second video in the series of Java Basics of Basics, which are part of a larger course. So if you want to go to the beginning and understand everything that we will be talking about, because you could be lacking some context, go ahead to the playlist mentioned in the description and start from the beginning. With that being said, let's discuss data types. First, a little correction on my tiny lie from the previous video. Namely, Java is not 100% object-oriented because we have data types which are primitives, which allows us to store some really simple data. With that being said, let's take a look at which those are. In order to check this out, first we need to create a variable. So what is a variable? A variable is actually something that we say to Java, hey, please reserve some memory that is going to be this and that type, called this and that, with this and that value. So, in order to do that, first let's use int, which is meant for storing whole numbers from around -2 billion to 2 billion, which is 2 to the power of 32. So this is going to be int, so first we specify type, example int, then we specify the name of the variable, and after equals sign, we just write out the value. So in this case, 123. Of course, I can go ahead and change the value from 123 to 14. And then again, I can also print out the value. Good tip to know, you can just write SOUT, press tab, and then you will get system.out.println, which is the snippet of code required to print out any value. With that being said, let's just put in the example int over here, which is currently valued at 14, and let's see what pops up. 14, very nice. Also, I can do something like this to make it more transparent, what I want to do. For example, the number I want to see is colon, space, and then we've got example int. We can use text plus some value to make sure that we have something that is way more readable than just the raw number. But yeah, that's only int. We've got quite a lot more. Int is quite small. It is only 2 up to power of 32. Then we also got long, which is 2 to the power of 64, which is only used for storing whole numbers as well, meaning that we cannot do any fractional numbers. But the behavior is essentially 4, the same as we would do with ints, or rather integers. Then we've got fractional numbers, for example float, and to write it, for example 12.56, we need to write at the end of it F letter, and then it's going to work properly. But key thing here, float can only store up reliably up to 6 to 7 decimal digits, so please do not use it for numbers which have more. For those, use a double, which is good for storing data up to 15 decimal digits. If you need more, then you can just go ahead and create more. But until that, of course, this is going to take some time until you need numbers about 15 decimal digits later. Those are numbers. Then we've got some other types. We've got Boolean, which is actually very, very useful because it stores a true-false value, meaning that we can tell that something is true or something is false by using this particular expression. So it's super useful. Right now, we can't really do much with it, but we are going to be using Booleans quite a lot throughout our learning of Java. Then we've got char, which is just a simple character that we write this time is going to be a little bit different because we need to write it in apostrophes and then just the value itself. In this example, C. And we've got byte, that is, of course, byte, which is a value of 8 bits up to 124, if I remember correctly. And it stores a single byte worth of data, but this data type is not used a lot, let's just say. It's used for very advanced operation later on when you're trying to manipulate bytes. So this is not something that you'll be using anytime soon. Then let's also discuss the types of operations on primitives, because on them we can do some very simple operations. And let's just showcase some of those. Of course, all the information, all the types, along with the types of operations on primitives that we can use, will be described in the file itself, along with the exercises to train a little bit those primitives. So let's discuss first plus sign, because it's used for adding. We're going to be using the print out function, so system out println, which allows us to print out any value we would like. Let's delete this one to showcase some stuff. I can just print here 12 plus 13, which will give me 25. I can also do 12 minus 13, which will give me -1. I can use star for multiplication, slash for division, and then of course it's 0 because int, I remember, those are both int numbers, meaning that for dividing we are going to round up to the nearest number, and 12 divided by 13, the nearest number is unfortunately 0. Then we've also got double equals sign, which will tell me whether what I have put here is equal. And to show it a little bit better, let's just try example int. Let's check whether it's equal to 14. And what will be actually a result of it, we'll get a true false value. In this case, it's true. If we change 14 to 124, it's going to return false. So that's very nice. Then we can check whether they are different. This is exclamation mark equals, and this is going to be an operation that will tell me whether example int is different from 124. And yeah, that's true. Example int is 14. Then we've got operations that will allow us to check whether something is bigger, false, smaller, and all, of course, bigger or equal, so that it's easier for us to do stuff. So yeah, to sum it up, we've got multiple types of primitives that we can use some simple operations on. To create a variable, you need to first specify the type of the variable, the naming of it. This name needs to be unique within the scope that we are in. So in our case, for this part, it needs to be unique within those curly braces. And then after equals sign, you just put up the value that you want to give. We've got whole numbers, we've got decimal point numbers, we've got booleans, we've got characters, we've got bytes, and then we've got multiple types of operations that we can use to operate on the primitives. Then about the exercises for this part. Let's go into the file, let's go into the data types, and then you've got everything summed up nicely. And if you go a bit down, we've got let's try this out by doing some exercises section, and here you've got create two int variables and print the sum, compare two numbers and print out the result, and try dividing a number by 0, what happens then? So very, very simple exercises, but still we are at the beginning and we can't do anything exciting yet. This will come shortly. With that being said, see you in the next video. A little bit of a spoiler, we are going to be talking about strings, so the type of data that allows us to store text.